Hi everyone, this is Christine from Greenbook. Welcome and thank you for attending today's webinar, which is brought to us by Hotspex. Your speakers today are Shane Skillen, the CEO at Hotspex, and his VP of Strategic Growth and Brand Building, Jonathan LaGreca. Today they're presenting how Hotspex and Google partner to drive advertising ROI. A couple of quick housekeeping items. The duration of this webinar is 30 minutes. You will be on mute. If you have questions, you can submit them in the chat box in the bottom left-hand corner, and our speakers will address them after the webinar today. And we are recording today, so that will be available in 2 to 3 days. So with that said, I will go ahead and turn it over to Shane and Jonathan.
Oh, thanks very much, Christine, and greetings from Canada. Very happy to be here today with all of you to talk to you about some exciting work that we've been doing in the area of media ROI, and specifically with our friends at Google. So as I just said, thank you. I know you're all very busy, and I hope you notice that as part of your participation, that this being a lunch and learn, that is, if you're fed, you are probably happier and more interested in what we say. But if you live in an area where Uber Eats services, we're more than happy to get you a $15 Uber Eats digital gift certificate. All you got to do is just, maybe you haven't ordered it today, but just order it in the next week, and we're happy to get it to you. Also, great to see that hundreds of insight professionals are on this webinar or signed up to it across 49 different countries around the world, which I think just speaks to how global our global insights industry is, and more specifically, how powerful Grit is, which is great. So some of you know us, some of you don't. The quick overview on Hotspex is that we've been around for 18 years. We've been awarded the most innovative company in the Grit survey, which coincidentally just went live yesterday. If you haven't taken it, I'm sure you'll see an invite in social media or in your mail inbox sometime soon. We have 15 of the top 20 global advertisers as our clients, and we service them in 31 countries around the world out of our offices in New York, London, and Toronto. This drives to our one true purpose, why we get up every morning, and that's really to help brands grow. Coined a book from our good friend Byron Sharp. I think everybody shares the belief that brand growth and brand building are the focal point of all contemporary marketing these days. So just before I let Jonathan start with some insights around what's going on with chief marketing officers, I just want everyone to appreciate the amount of change that is happening and the pace of change. This is one of the best pictures that I've seen that illustrates that. And look at what's happened in Shanghai. Just over 20 years, and I'm even thinking about the next 20 years, how much change is going to happen there. This change is reverberating through our industry and through other industries, so much so I saw this picture. These are the folks that worked at Instagram when Facebook bought it for $1 billion. At that time, Kodak had 150,000 employees and was slowly on its way to bankruptcy because of new technologies, just like Instagram. In that same vein, here are the people that work at our friend Zappy store, and very interesting company driving a lot of the change that we actually see right now. There's a lot of disruption in our industry, and technology is really having a profound impact on it. And to help understand how we could reinvent our company, Hotspex, because we do tend to reinvent ourselves every few years, we actually spoke to a bunch of CMOs to figure out what was going on with them so we could make sure that the products and services that we are developing met their current and forthcoming needs. So with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague, Jonathan LaGreca, who actually helped us out and get all these insights from the CMOs.
Thank you, Shane. So our journey started with us interviewing over 20 different CMOs and several other senior level marketers. Our goal was really to understand two things. Number one, what is keeping CMOs up at night? And number two, what can insight leaders and their vendor partners do to help? We came across several different insights, but for this presentation, we're going to focus in on the three most salient ones. The first insight that rang loud and clear among all the discussions we had with chief marketing officers and their senior leaders is that there's a pressure to demonstrate and thus measure the impact and ROI of everything, and this is only increasing from year to year. A study from Accenture showed that 37% of CEOs hold the CMO most accountable for driving growth. And in fact, they're the first in the firing line if growth targets aren't met. That said, this probably won't surprise you, 41% of CMOs have been in their role for 2 years or less. Going back to the Accenture report, 60% of the time that CMOs are spending right now on traditional marketing activities just don't seem to be delivering. This is self-reported. So right now there's this drive to demonstrate more impact and ROI than ever before, and yet CMOs aren't feeling they're able to deliver. In fact, something that came through in a lot of our conversations was the concept of imposter syndrome. And part of what's driving this is that the environment within which they are operating in has changed dramatically. Ultimately, CMOs are looking to insight leaders and vendor partners to bring new ideas and approaches that can create impact and ROI. And that leads us to the second insight that came out loud and clear through the interviews that we had. The pace of technology, Shane already alluded to this, the pace of technology and digitization is creating a digital tsunami. This is just showing how many different marketing technology companies have evolved in the last 7 years. As you can see, if you go back 7 years, there's probably only 150 of these firms. And now in 2017 and 2018, there's over 5,000. So there's a lot of different options. So quite frankly, CMOs are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the rate of change, as well as the different options that they have available to them in terms of driving impact and change. Interestingly, another figure that we came across in our desk research is that over a quarter of the marketing spend right now is actually on technology. And for the first time ever, the percentage of technology that is spent in a CMO's budget is equal to what a CIO is spending on technology. So basically now, there are organizations that have combined the CMO role and the CIO role to create something called the Chief Marketing Technology Officer. Yet, in our study and our interviews, we found that 30% of CMOs believe that they're cutting-edge marketing innovators. So there's a gap here in terms of what they need to do and what they believe they're positioned to do. So ultimately, the key here is to deliver solutions that are digital in nature, but as you saw, they need to be simple and easy to implement, because right now CMOs are feeling quite overwhelmed by the different opportunities and different types of technologies that are available to them. Which leads us to the final insight before I hand it over back to Shane, which is that the biggest opportunity to drive impact is to improve advertising effectiveness. If you just look at the total marketing spend globally, for marketing services, it's about $1 trillion. Over half of that takes place in advertising at $560 billion. As you can see in this chart, digital has now surpassed TV. So ultimately, before I hand it over to Shane, the question that we're really asking here is as an insights professional or a vendor partner serving the insights function, how can you help drive impact and ROI? And with that, I'll hand it over to Shane to show how we went on a journey to solve this.
Thanks, Jonathan. So if you take nothing out of our call today, I think we as an industry, whether on the client side or the supplier side, need to be thinking every morning and every lunch and every night, what are we doing that's driving impact across our organization? What are we doing that we can create visibility for ourselves around our careers and for our groups that's creating measurable, defined impact? And so, as Jonathan mentioned, where better to create measurable impact than in the $1 trillion that's spent in media every year? This is forefront of what CMOs are worried about. Are they getting a good return on it? Are they putting it in the right places? Is it working? Will I keep my job for longer than 2 years, which is the typical CMO tenure these days? Interesting study that came out a few days ago called the Gun Media 100. Gun actually did this very interesting methodology where they aggregated all of the awards that media campaigns won based on performance and scored them accordingly, so you could start to figure out what the best media strategies on earth are, totally around the world, all categories, and they came to some interesting conclusions, but primarily all the winners were using data in new and interesting ways. And this should come as no surprise to everybody, but the creative and innovative use of data is how you reach people more effectively at the right time with the right ad to have the right amount of impact. One of my favorite studies came from Singapore. If you haven't been to Singapore, I highly recommend it. You can actually stay, as you can see my cursor, but this is a hotel here, and you can swim in this pool, which sits on top of the hotel. And it's just a great city. What happened in Singapore was McDonald's partnered with Google to actually use McDonald's first-party data, so their own customer data, and Google targeting geolocation to reach people that would be most likely to want to order takeout or delivery McDonald's. And it worked very, very effectively. As you can see here, I've got this stat of 58% increase in ROI based on data. This was, that was the #1 winning, most impactful media campaign on earth as voted by Gunn. In third place was this Losing It campaign called the Hunger Rhythm. And this was very cool. It used Twitter sentiment analysis in Australia to figure out the mood of Australians. The angrier they were, the cheaper Snickers bars would be in 7-Eleven stores. And they changed the price every 10 minutes. And geez, did it work. I think the social mentions went up about 17,000%. They didn't report on the actual sales outcome, but it was very, very significant, you can imagine, just by using data and social and engaging people in new and interesting ways around media. So let's go back to Google. This is Dr. Hinton, who's based in Toronto, just like Jonathan and myself. And this guy's one of the godfathers of machine learning and AI. And he's working with Google to understand how to get machines to learn more, to make more sense of the world around us, and to have more impact on things that matter to Google and things that actually matter to humanity as well, too. Good example, if you want to understand how neural networks and machine learning work, is this fun app called Quick Draw, which you can play. You can play it with your kids. Essentially what it does is it tries to guess what you're drawing based on comparing what you've drawn to what thousands of other people have similarly drawn. And actually was shown this on a bus at a wedding in Italy by our gentleman named Ryan Ulahan, who leads global Google healthcare. And it was a hit. I mean, you had 30 people, champagne in hand, gathered around trying to see this thing work. So full disclaimer, before I show you some of my drawings, I did not get an A in drawing. I did well in some other subjects, but drawing and art were not one of them. So you kind of go in, and it says draw stairs in under 20 seconds. Here's me trying to draw stairs. As you can imagine, it actually guessed it quite quickly. This one I failed at miserably. This was me trying to draw a sleeping bag, and my timer got to 0, as you can see there. I was unsuccessful. This was even worse. This was a chance at drawing a pig, which I did not get successfully either. That said, Google being Google and making you feel good, the last one they gave me was a saw, which it got right away. So Google's taken my scribbles here, compared it to other things it knows people have drawn as a saw, and said, I think that's a saw. That's how deep learning and neural networks work. And please know, when people talk about AI and machine learning, all that, this is the kind of stuff they're talking about. The AI where Skynet comes and takes over humanity, that's not really going to happen, despite what Elon Musk says. But I have a few other things I can talk about because I still have my slides printed up. And I'll say as we get into what contextual media targeting is, we heard at IAX that if content is king, then context is queen. And IAX, a wonderful fellow from Heineken, actually gave a full presentation talking about the impacts of how aligning content with advertising would actually have an incremental effect on advertising. Makes sense to you, right? If you're watching something funny, then you see a funny ad, then you are probably going to be in a better mindset to have that ad land effectively with you. Here's the fellow here. So here's the way it basically works. If you see a word like dirty and then washing, you'll complete that as soap. 98% of you will say that's soap. To do another one, you have spoon, chicken. 98% of you will then say that that is soup. So why does this matter? It matters because the ads that your ads are showing, when your ads are showing on certain content, it has an impact on how that ad works and actually the impressions that leaves on the person about that brand specifically. This is where all of these brand safety conversations are actually stemming from. Is, Procter & Gamble is very public saying we don't want our ads showing up against negative content. And it matters. We can tell you it matters. In fact, if a Trump ad is in a 2-minute ad pod on linear TV, the effectiveness of those 3 other ads is diminished by as much as 30%. So what we would ask is, why think about brand safety when you can start to think about brand opportunity? And that's just the idea that if it matters where your ad is in front of, why not put it in stuff that actually matches to make the ad better and make the viewing experience better? So any video content that can actually be digested, we've got a system that can actually create alignment between these two things. So the big idea here is rather than targeting to the who, it's the who plus when to create better ROI. If you can get people when they're in the right mindset, that's the right time to be getting them. So you've probably seen a lot of this stuff in the news lately about Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, the epic fail. In fact, it resulted in a $40 billion stock price drop, of which Mark Zuckerberg himself suffered a $9 billion reduction in his net worth. I think his new net worth is $61 billion, so I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. The issue here, though, was the use of personal information. And you're going to see with GDPR coming out in the EU and now undoubtedly something similar to that in the United States after Mark Zuckerberg goes in front of Congress, the idea of how are brands using data. And it's comical almost what happened with Trump, because I know Obama did the exact same thing. I know because someone that used to work for me actually worked on that campaign and wrote a book about how she did a lot of the things Cambridge Analytica did. This has just got to a point where the techlash has people questioning the value that we're getting out of these technologies. You know I wouldn't like to pay for Google, and if Google was free, you know, you obviously know you're being supported by an ad product. So one of the solutions to this, the personal information, is actually use contextual targeting instead of person-based targeting, because that actually doesn't cause any problems around privacy. So you've got 5 billion videos watched a day, and then you've got, you know, where should those videos actually play? So to figure this all out, you need a map. And so maps help guide brands. At Hotspex, we spent a lot of time and money making a map. Our map is based on behavioral science and marketing science. We're very lucky that, I guess 2 years ago now, Dr. Dan Young, who is the most senior consumer scientist at Procter & Gamble, has now become our chief behavioral scientist. He's helped us build 3 new pure implicit-based models that have since been approved by a number of our different clients to be true implicit models that actually predict behavior and predict in-market effectiveness. So we take that behavioral science and then combine it with what we call around here the good book, Byron Sharp's How Brands Grow, which has just become religion at, I'd say, about 90% of our over 300 clients around the world. We'll also send you all a summary of this. We found it's quite helpful. So as part of the webinar, we actually have your email. So stay tuned in your inbox for a summary of the How Brands Grow overview. So the way the map works is it's a 3D sphere. I'm not going to spend too much time on it right now because we do want to let you go at 12:30. On the map, we help brands figure out where they optimally want to position themselves. And then when they find that space, that becomes what they call their right space. And so if it's an automotive company saying it wants to be, you know, turned on, fascinated, alive, within that space, we know the personality, we know the colors, we know the shapes, we know the sounds. We can make sure that everything is aligned into that space so it feels the same way across all touch points as somebody experiences that brand. So much so that the former vice president of design for Procter & Gamble said that this map was going to be their unified theory of brand across all their touch points. So the software that we've built, we actually, you know, collaborated with Google to build this technology out, and it's very exciting because it's a software as a service model where, and again, very high level. If you're interested in a demo, even if you're on the supplier side, we'd love to show you how this works because we're open to different business models around sharing access to it. We go in, you actually say within our map where you actually want to position your brand. We then upload the ad and implicitly test it with N equals 300 consumers in a Hotspex survey, so full implicit testing. Google gave us some incredible technology that actually takes entities out of rolling video. So it takes millisecond by millisecond pictures of what's going on in a live video and tries to make sense of what it sees there. Again, I can't give you a demo of it because over this specific webcasting technology, videos don't work that well, but it's very cool, so I'll try to give you a flavor for how it works. We then create a targeting package using an algorithm that we've developed, and then that simply goes into DoubleClick Bid Manager and Google AdWords. I've got to say the most important point here is it's very, very simple to do this. So we just need to understand what the ad is. You need to understand what your brand strategy is. And then a few hours later, this targeting package is created that then deploys those ads in Google pre-roll and mid-roll that are appropriate for that ad. So it finds the content which is predictive of the mind state that somebody is in, and make sure that those ads are played at the right time so they have maximum effectiveness in terms of advertising recall and advertising impact, but also we've seen it to actually improve viewer experience as well too. So here's just a few screen captures of what this looks like. And, you know, huge thanks to our amazing team at Hotspex and some of our development partners and Google for helping us develop out this capability, because it was very complex. And you know, I'd also like to thank the Canadian government for extending a significant tax credits to fund a lot of this R&D. Here's actually how it works. So you configure the study, and I can't play it, but you can see video editing, extraction, audio analysis. If this were to play properly, and again, happy to show anybody in a demo through a little bit different webcasting technology, it would start to pull out everything it sees in the image as it tries to make sense of what that video is. And it's getting very smart. In fact, I was in New York at Google last week, and they're very proud of the fact that this algorithm can identify an ultimate Frisbee game is being played with no Frisbee in the picture. And how it does that is it looks at all the people, looks at the body positions that they're in, and knows other pictures that look like ultimate Frisbee, so there doesn't even need to be a Frisbee there. This is the deep machine learning that's getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and actually helping to make the world a better place as it minimizes some of the monotonous tasks that happen across all areas of the work streams. So just to summarize, the idea is you get the ad, the brand, we match with the YouTube content and that nexus there, and create a targeting package that works on DoubleClick, Bid Manager, and Google AdWords. So we ran a pilot, very easy to have impressions with Google, over 1 billion impressions, 7 brands, Hotspex and Google. These are some of the brands that participated from a number of different categories, and our hypothesis was that contextually aligned ads should work better. Google does brand lift studies. Some of the data you're going to see is from our own internal brand lift studies by pixeling them, but a brand lift study allows you to do A/B testing for contextual targeting versus non-contextual targeting, actually see what the impact is going to be of that program that you deploy. And I'll say that in media tech, this is essential. Clients always want to know, okay, we're doing this, we're going to pay you for the ability to buy this algorithm. What's the ROI of using your algorithm? Thankfully, it was significant. So the impact was significant. One of the things we really liked is the skip rate dropped 18%. So this is good for 2 reasons. One, it makes more money for our friends at Google, and advertising is more effective, but it just speaks to the viewer experience being improved. If I'm in a certain mindset and a video comes up that's not aligned to that mindset, I'm much more likely to skip it. But if I'm in a contextually aligned mindset, it's actually going to be more conducive to me not wanting to skip it and having me be more open to receive that advertising message. This has massive impact on linear television as well too. Currently in discussions with several large US TV networks who are struggling with ad loads, because in a world where we have Netflix and time shifting and PVRs and video on demand, people do not like watching ads. So you're going to start to see the ad loads in the United States and actually in Europe through a client we have there as well too, start to be reduced. But what if the ads could be better aligned to the content people were watching? Would they be more interested in actually seeing the ads? Well, this data would say that the answer to that is yes. We then saw click-through rates go up quite dramatically as well too, 33%. We saw brand lift and brand recall jump 75%, and stated purchase intent, top 2 box, jumped 73%. So this stuff works. Remember, we didn't invent it. We didn't decide as psychologists that if you can create alignment between ads and content, they're going to work better. There's hundreds of academic studies out there around it. We just really helped bring a model around it using our Hotspex map and using some technology from Google to actually make this actionable so that marketing organizations right now can go and reap this impact. Another thing we're very happy about as well too was that brand equity built. As you can think about Google, they're very, very good lower funnel, but there's lots of opportunity, particularly on YouTube, to build upper funnel brands. And that's YouTube's future, is actually taking money away from TV dollars where it can be more intelligent, deployed across mobile platforms and across the Google platform to actually have a better impact on building brands than some of the traditional stuff. So the conclusion is the media targeting on Google works. By the way, if you guys have any questions, if you type them in, we might have a few minutes left over to answer some of them, but not many. So So again, the main thing is these clients that we did these pilot with, we're all able to go back in the organization and have a conversation with marketers about an impact that a research initiative had on the business, a very real ROI driving impact on a research initiative. And in a few of the cases, the CMO got involved. We're going back to present and kick off a much larger program with the chief marketing officer of one of these brands in a few weeks because, hey, as Jonathan so aptly reviewed with us all earlier, CMOs are laying awake at night wondering how to get better ROI out of their media dollars because, hey, it's such a big expense. If they can get that right, good things will happen. Then, you know, PhD was a key client of ours, or key partner of ours in deploying media for Honda. And one of the vice presidents there, in fact, Steve Wendt, actually said this will be the future of advertising. So what about TV? You heard me touch on it lightly. It's just, this is too cool to just not show very, very quickly with a few minutes we have left here. So we're not just integrating purely in with Google. We're technology agnostic, so to speak, and we're very lucky in this day and age. There's just a lot of people that want to deploy great technology. So you don't have to build your own Watson. You don't have to build your own Google deep learning neural network. With Watson, we actually built a model with them where we can feed into the closed captioning of television scripts and get real-time mapping of how shows make people feel, which is interesting because you can start to predict how someone is going to receive the receptivity of an ad pod based on a specific show, where here you have Nashville versus Law and Order. So you can see these are emotional scores coming off the map. You can see differentiation where Law and Order might have a lot of reach that it can get through a media buy, which is, of course, must never sacrifice reach, but it can be in a little bit of a negative space, which could be detrimental to the brand. So is it easy? The answer is yes. You just got to ask yourself, if you're a client out there, and I got an idea for you suppliers out there in a minute too. Are you advertising on YouTube? Then which most people are, and does your media team want that media to work harder in contextual targeting? I can tell you the CMO does. The process is very easy. We just simply need to get a YouTube ad. The test gets done in 3 hours, and then a targeting package gets sent back to your media agency. We've now done this dozens and dozens of times, so we're quite good at it. We send the file, they load it into Google's targeting, and in 2 hours of work maximum on the client side, this impact is actually felt. There's a lot of hoorays and hoorahs in some cases for a new tool that Insights brought that had measurable ROI and impact on the media budget, which has been quite good in our experience so far. So, I just didn't want this whole thing to be a complete sales pitch, and neither did Jonathan. So we hope you got some of the insights from the CMOs, and it can inspire you as you think about some of the solutions that you're actually making. But I also want to just focus on that for a minute. CMOs are what drive a lot of your marketing organizations, and what you got to understand is what's keeping them awake at night. It's going to be similar across them. Jonathan led to some thematics, but you can figure out from reading what they're talking about in social media. You can figure out what they're liking in social media, and you can read conference call transcripts that will help you understand what's going on within your organization at the most senior levels if you don't know already. And the trick for you then is to think about what you can be doing to create impact. So if you're a supplier, your project should be creating measurable impact back in your client organizations. And everybody should be able to understand what that impact is. If you're client side, again, those projects must be creating impact, because we're just in a world right now where things are just getting faster, cheaper, better, costs are getting cut. It's the things that create impact that are the things that are going to succeed and do well. So in closing, brands, please expect a reach out from us where we'd love to offer you a pilot as part of participating in our webinar. Again, it's very easy for you to do, and you should be able to achieve good things and demonstrate an impact back in your organization through a new digital technology that has impact on media ROI. And suppliers, in many cases, if you're interested, we're working with 3 right now where we have a business model that things you're doing around segmentations or focus groups or package testing, we can actually take into our system and actually help your end client get media efficiency as a result of that insight, thus helping your research work harder. So again, as I said at the beginning, please, anyone that's in an Uber Eats area, we wanted to make this a lunch and learn, and I love Uber Eats. I mean, geez, I eat that 3 times a week these days. If you haven't tried it, it's fantastic. All you got to do is just order Uber Eats. If you're not already a subscriber, you just sign up. It's really quite easy. And just take a screenshot of whatever you ordered, and in the next 2 weeks, if you just email it to me at shaneSkillen@hotspex.com, we will send back an electronic $15 certificate so that you can order more Uber Eats. And so in closing, look, I just really appreciate if you just add me to your LinkedIn, because I do like to stay in touch with the industry, and I like to make sure that I know what's going on with all of you. And you know, the grit survey is coming up right now as well too. Jonathan would kick me if I didn't mention that it's coming up, and you know, I'd really like you to participate in that as well too, because we use that grit survey to figure out what we're going to do in terms of our future bets on technology and how we're going to service different people. So with that, I am going to sign off. I don't know if the magical moderators chime in back now again to say goodbye to everybody, or we just hang up, or if that piano music starts again, or if we should have brought our own piano music.
No more piano music. We did have 2 questions there. Are you going to address those after the fact?
I can't see the questions.
Yeah. One
okay.
is
how many? Yeah. So Trey Waring asks. Trey Waring asks how many ads did left? It was 9 ads, 10 ads total. And we also have another question from Janice to benchmark against. Correct. It's against not putting any contextual keywords in the targeting. And our keyword targeting package, I mean, typically it's north of 7,000 words. And so you got it exactly right. You've got to take the same audience target, that is the who, and then the A/B test, the B test, is with the contextual targeting.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you have any additional questions, you can send them to Shane directly with his contact here, information here on the last slide. And given that, we thank Hotspex for presenting today.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.